2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host for at least this episode, where we are going to be going on about a classic from 1988, directed by Kevin Tenney, and it's called Night of the Demons. Let me just give it a little small synopsis here. 10 teenagers party at an abandoned funeral parlor on Halloween night. When an evil force awakens, demonic spirits keep them from leaving and turn their gathering into a living hell. So, I know I have my copy here.
Nice.
Why don't we go around and see who wants to go first?
Well, since this was my suggestion, I'll go first.
Alrighty, I am ready when you are.
Okay, so first time I saw this movie was I was a college undergrad. I borrowed it from a classmate of mine, and I thought right away I just thought it was a lot of fun. Love the sound. I love the sound. Love the soundtrack. One of the highlights of this movie was the soundtrack. With Bauhaus, just really rocked. And then you had some great production design with that abandoned funeral parlor. It's just like it really is has like a very classic. It really lends itself to like a very classic horror sensibility with the setting. And also you have Linnea Quigley, the queen of the bees. Great, some good gnarly special effects with like the demon, with like the demon transformations and the blood and guts. It's just a lot for me. It's just for me it is probably the best Halloween movie that is not titled Halloween, and I make effort to watch it every October.
It feels Halloween-y. That is true.
Oh yeah, definitely. Going over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us your first impressions of this film?
Well, I can say this is definitively a first viewing. And honestly, before it was brought up, I knew more about Bauhaus than I did about this. But and yes, I will admit there was some good music here. This is a pretty intriguing soundtrack to this one. Overall, I honestly was dreading this one. The title didn't do it for me. I didn't really know up until the end if I was definitely going to watch it. And as it is, I'm kind of regretting not having made time for a nap tonight. So I'll be paying for it tomorrow. But I do think, what's that?
We'll try to scoot this along as fast.
Right. I do think that having seen it, it was not. Well, let's just say it had more 80s cheese than I was expecting. And that worked in its favor. As I told Brandon the other night, I'm keeping track of the films I've participated in for this channel and Movies Galore, and also our channel, Septum Sin, and to kind of help me rebuild a best of list. And I found that we've had an unusually high obsession with films from 1988 for some reason. We've gotten a lot of films from that year, and this one is only my third least favorite. So that's a good thing. It rated above Maniac Cop, and it rated way above Slime City. So, but I did give Return of the Living Dead 2 a slight edge. So it was good times.
Ready. going over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell us about your first impressions of this film? Is this a first time watch for you?
Actually, no, it is not. I have, well, actually, sorry. It is my first watch. I come to think of it, it's kind of confusing because Kim had said, "Oh yeah, we got to watch this," and I thought what I saw was Night of the Demons, but in truth, it was the remake I saw,
Oh,
and that was a few years ago. And then, of course, in preparation for this, I watched Night of the Demons 3 because I went ahead and ordered the sequels because I thought, oh, I got these cheap, let's go ahead and get these, and had the Scream Factory version of the first one, so it was a great excuse to watch that one. And so I watched 3 first because it arrived loose in the thing.
Mhm.
Then I watched 2 because I was doing it to rip for y'all to see. And then finally, the other night, because I was waiting for Kim, I went ahead and I saw 1 for the first time. And I liked this one. I thought to myself, oh my, this one has a similar tone, but it's a much more subdued tone than any of the others, than the remake or the sequels. Very much more subdued. And I thought it was still pretty good. I thought it was weird how it spent so much time setting it up, and they put all of the gore and action into like the last half hour in the film. It was very
It's
interesting.
kind of a
how-
theme with both films tonight, actually. Kind of.
Oh yeah,
they save
But,
all the good, all the good for like the last 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Well, in preparation, I wasn't able to finish Full Tilt Boogie. I'd seen it before, but I wanted to watch it again. And they're talking to Tarantino and Rodriguez, and they talk about that whole setup, about how, they take some time to gush about Stephen King, but they talk about that whole setup where you really get to know the characters and you really decide if you like them or don't or whatever, and and then you get to the horror part.
Right.
And they are both of the opinion that makes a good film. And I agree. Like, I like Stephen King because he spends time on the characters. And I liked Rodriguez's talk about From Dusk Till Dawn. They didn't have to have a horror element. They just added it. They could have had a perfectly good criminal action film otherwise. And this one's kind of like that. It's not as good because they really are building up to the horror. That's like the whole, but they do spend time with the characters, and I think that helped me a lot. I would not have enjoyed the film as much without that setup.
yeah.
Well, let's get back to this.
Sorry.
So let's look at the plot. Well, actually, let me do my.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I saw the film maybe like 9 or 10 years ago, and I ended up. I think what I did is I ended up owning the first one. Then the next 2 I ended up like backing them up on discs or whatnot, and I just had it that way. And I just kind of did a marathon of it. And then in 2009, when the remake came out, I had to get that one just for the sake of getting it. And I believe I picked that one up around the time that Blockbuster was still doing their 4 for $20 DVDs or whatnot. And it wasn't too much longer before they started closing their doors. So, but I fairly enjoyed this film. I love the setup of the old man. I also like. I also like any film that has to do with anything that happens on Halloween night, and has to do with something in a morgue. I mean, I love that aspect of the film. And I love the fact that there are some camera angles as they come up past the gate and up towards the house. I mean, this fucking house looks fucking abandoned as all shit. and it's fairly creepy when they first pull up to the house. And the only thing is, I think that I feel like they were trying to cram a lot of scenes of the people going up, getting together and going up to the house. I don't think they needed entirely all that. I think they needed to show a little, show the well, maybe they did do it in a good way. It just seemed kind of conjumbled.
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 Good time.
It's my word. In any ways,
they definitely needed the fudge log scene.
Well, it's either that or just combobulated. Anyways, I love the pretense of them being invited to this Hull House. I wonder if it's a play on Hill House a little bit, though.
That's what I'm thinking, like House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Well, it clearly is that.
They also did a little bit of a build up with like. So I mean, they didn't entirely do a whole legend thing of the house, but they did a kind of build up to this house just over time and what's happened with this house. And we have a different group of characters here. I mean, first of all, we have the teenage outcast Angela Franklin, which I swear to God, they ripped this right from The Craft.
Even before you cracked
this,
and her friend Suzanne, who was played by none other than Linnea Quigley, are throwing a party at this Hull House, and it's got a gruesome past, and it's rumored to be cursed by evil spirits. Of course, also on the way there is Stooge, Helen, and Roger. And we also have Judy Cassidy and her boyfriend Jay Jansen, and they end up picking up their friends Max and Franny, and that's about when we are introduced to Sal Romero, who ends up crashing the party later on, but we get introduced to him firsthand. I mean, kind of, sort of. So now that I've kind of introduced some of these characters, what do we think about the main chick, Judy Cassidy?
You mean the? I don't know if I should spoil it.
Well, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this, anyways.
Spoilers, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, spoiler alert!
There may be a spoiler or two here.
Well, she's very cute. Dressed like Alice, for Halloween. Boyfriend doesn't bother to dress up, but she does. And as I said last night, she's a final girl who does not seem to earn it. But once she finally flips that switch, she kind of kicks ass.
Yeah, she kind of reminds me of like a goody two shoes.
Very much so.
Kind of. I mean, she is not obviously as rude as her brother is in the very beginning.
Funny enough, I should point out, did you guys grow up watching the Nickelodeon game show Wild and Crazy Kids?
I remember that.
Sounds familiar.
It's in my mind.
The little brother is host Donnie Jeffcoat.
Is that the one where they were like it was sort of like a field day and there were like a bunch of kids like on teams, they were competing?
Yep. I remember two Wild and Crazy Guys.
That show, and the little brother was the host of that show.
I think I watched it like in my teenage years, like when I was, because that was towards the time I was starting to age out of Nick. I think like in the 90s, I believe,
early 90s,
mid 90s. Yeah, so I was young enough at the time in the early 90s because I watched a lot of Nickelodeon up through the mid 90s, and then kind of graduated to Nick at Night. It's kind of weird. I went from like a teenager to an old man apparently in like a
Well, it
Well,
is.
evidently after the girl who played Judy ended up playing Callie Ewing and Callie Harper
Yeah.
on Dallas, and
I
then
saw that.
and then somewhere in there, she played in Earth Angel, a movie from the 1991. But evidently, she is currently in a film called Reunion from Hell, which is supposed to be coming out.
And it's a horror film, and it's a horror movie.
Yeah,
This is interesting. It looks like she acted steadily through the mid-90s, stopped for 20 years, and then came back.
yeah.
It's interesting. But she, like I said, I do think it's worth noting, like you guys in our discussion. Oh, hey, Dustin. In a discussion so far on Friday the 13th, everyone keeps trying to fit that series into the whole virtue and sin being punished mold that a lot of these films go into. And from what I understand, that series was aggressively against that. It was like, screw it, whoever gets killed gets killed. But y'all keep talking about it. But this was one where I did feel like it definitely fit that mold because she was so obviously the goody two-shoes character.
Yeah.
Like all these other characters were so not.
What was your first impression, Dustin, of Night of the Demons?
Well, this was one of the movies that I sort of discovered when I was first getting into horror. And I don't have any specific memories of it other than like, wow, that was pretty good. So it was formulaic without being formulaic. Like it follows its own pattern and it has some twists and surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just a very positive. It's like, wow, that was really good. What else can we see? What else can we watch that's like this? So that was really my first impression.
Yeah, you really feel like you're part of it. It's because it's a party movie. You really feel like you're part of it. It's like you're part of you're a guest at this. You feel like you're a guest at this party. You're watching it.
Yeah. And that opening sequence is pretty memorable too.
Oh yeah, great.
The opening animation. I love that animation.
Yeah. I even like the menu on the DVD. It's kind of interesting as well. We were just talking about the survivor girl, the Judy character. What were your thoughts of the mains? We were thinking
the way this movie is structured, you're not necessarily sure if she's going to make it or not, because this movie, we have this guy who we think is going to be the hero, and he dies.
Oh yeah.
So you're not sure what's going on for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
Like I think you can kind of tell she's the character they're focusing the most on. So, well, they probably won't kill her, but there's a period there where they're reaching for her and she's dangling from that wall, and it's like, oh well, maybe not.
I kind of thought a couple times during the course of the movie that if these demons were really out to kill or possess, but if they really were focused on the task at hand, she wouldn't have stood a chance.
Oh yeah.
But I felt like they were very kind of aimless at times.
I hate to say this about our B-movie queen, Linnea Quigley, but god damn was her makeup caked on real heavy.
I don't know. She does do it on purpose after a while.
On that face.
She was an interesting one. That might be a fun one to move to because Suzanne was a interesting character. She's basically introduced by an ultra close-up shot
of her ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she basically, what was it? It was a nurse outfit. I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember if it was like a nurse or a princess outfit.
There's something in that vein. It was pink.
Too pink for me.
I think it was a princess. I think it was like some sort of princess costume.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that might have been.
almost like a princess from like Super Mario Brothers. Like,
Yeah.
Right. And she's kind of basically, I guess, the sort of kind of slutty friend of the one hosting the party until she gets possessed, and then she just goes weird.
I'm actually thinking of Linnea Quigley in this movie. It looks more like some sort of like I guess Goldilocks or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we think about the character of Angela, the one that ultimately ends up being like the lead demon?
I was surprised what happened with her
Angela.
because though she kind of looked like she would be that type because of the goth style and all that.
Mhm.
At the same time, I was looking at this character and going, well, she's not the first one possessed. You would think it would have been her friend instead. But I guess it makes sense because they ended up latching on to her as time went on.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I never quite understood how. I would have always thought the one that was first possessed was going to be the one there. I mean, that's one of the things I liked better in the remake, which was that they possessed Angela first, which to me made a lot more sense that the main demon would do that. Though the main demon kind of looked like one of the catfish creatures from the Muppets. So, you know, there's only so much of that I'm like going,
Well,
Right.
they don't give you like too good a look at it when it does appear at the end of the film, which is probably for the best.
Mhm. But you also get that brief flash in the mirror at the beginning. But yeah.
That's one thing that I liked about this film is that the fact that the demons came from mirrors in the place. I believe they were trapped inside the mirrors. They weren't trapped inside, you know, the morgue down in the basement or anything like that. It seemed like they were trapped inside the mirrors, didn't it?
oh, well, they use the mirrors to communicate. But the demons came out of the crematorium because remember, this was a morgue. Well, not morgue, a funeral parlor. So they came out of the crematorium where you could see the skulls. They even lift up one of the skulls later where you see the little pointy teeth on it.
Okay.
It's but the mirror communication is sort of like when you know how it is when these people, the stupid teens, take out the Ouija board and then they end up getting the demons in the house because they made contact with the demons. The same thing.
Right.
Well, here's where we pick up the plot. So they all arrive at the Hull House, and they get this kind of legend where apparently there was a couple that had apparently lived inside the house, and they went and killed themselves, or what?
They killed everyone.
Right.
It's like one person got possessed and then killed all.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't say possessed, but one person ended up killing everybody there, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they get inside the house and end up playing some music and goofing around. Oh, we didn't even mention Stooge. What do we think about Stooge as a character?
Yeah, I thought you cut off the character thing a little early. Stooge was annoying.
This had really vibrant characters for the most part. Like each of the ones who got possessed, like they all had like their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Stooge is the first one we're introduced to. Is he's basically you think he's gonna like do something more severe, but just ends up playing more of just a childish prank to the old man.
He's more of
Who
a
isn't a good guy either, as we find out. But Stooge is like such a dick. Really, if I could think of anyone,
literally.
yeah,
His
if there was
costume
anyone
was
I thought
appropriate.
deserved to die in this, he's one of those people. I was like, nah, Fuck him.
Yeah.
Although I do like his line. It's like it was like what was it? Eat a load of fuck. I'm here to party.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we get introduced to him while he's driving the car, and he's wearing an oinker. So, ultimately, once they all arrive to the house, they think because they are in this haunted house, they ought to communicate with the spirits in some way, shape, or form. Correct?
Right. Well,
So-
I think you should probably we might as well round out the cast. He drives in with Helen and Roger. Neither of them gets as much time to be as fleshed out as the others, although Roger essentially they both kind of play the ones that have the sense to get out of Dodge.
Yeah,
But they can't do it, unfortunately.
he's definitely the token man of color in here.
Yeah. Which is one way where they subverted expectations.
He was actually smart. He was actually smart, and he knows.
Surprise.
Yeah.
He was the first one to say, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I think the last one was Sal, who basically Sal is this coarse, colorful language, colorful accent, has a thing for Judy. She doesn't have a thing for him.
Oh yeah.
Well, and we forgot Judy's boyfriend, but we might as well. He doesn't really do much other than act jealous. And then there's the other two. The what was it? Franny and Max, right?
Yeah.
They're basically a couple that's along for the ride. I mean, Franny, I like Franny. She, very cute.
Yeah.
But she has that weird Joey Lauren Adams, Jennifer Tilly sort of voice.
Like a baby voice.
Yeah, Jill Tereshita, I think was her name. Yeah, so there you go. That's all your characters.
Well, and Stooge reminds me of Thumper in the Butterfly Effect. So just a little.
I still need to say that.
You know what's weird? The blonde friend, the one that gets possessed first, reminds me of a young Peggy Bundy was. It must have been like.
Oh, geez.
Just a tiny bit. So ultimately, after they commune with the spirits, that's when they start to. It's not that they start to see anything; they start to smell certain smells. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the demons have like a distinctive odor to them, and that's kind of a way to differentiate them from other similar like kind of haunting things, because usually in like a possession movie, like they don't describe the other like characteristics of the phenomena. It's like, there's a smell, and it's like usually you don't get details like that.
I know Brandon was saying that he always thought that Night of the Demons a couple of weeks ago. He thought that Evil Dead was right. Brandon was like
I always thought that the demons, especially in the later films, not as much the first film, but definitely the later films, reminded me a lot of Raimi's take on the undead, the Deadites. Again, mainly from the very first Evil Dead, and it wouldn't be surprising if the creators of Night of the Demons saw Evil Dead. I mean, Night of the Demons took place like 7 years later.
I'm pretty sure there were some nods to it.
Yeah,
because there's definitely that over the top, like overly boisterous acting by those that are possessed, and it was just kind of cool to see some of that, and I'm sure there were some nods. It's hard to think of them like that.
I would like to say maybe another nod to like Exorcist to at least in that that genre because of voice, how deep Angela's got over time.
Mhm.
It just kind of reminded me of
Smoke too many cigarettes.
right, without the choke collar. But in any case, what did we think of Linnea Quigley's character as she began to evolve?
She began to kind of lose her mind. Like,
Yeah, right.
that's kind of an iconic image where she's drawn on her face with a lipstick. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people really love that. Like
Oh,
I've seen
yeah.
costumes of that.
Is my makeup okay?
Then they have that scene where she basically
I'd probably that's probably where I'd probably run like bail on her.
Well, it kind of looked like she was doing her own body autopsy for a moment, you know.
and she ends up like having this eventually as it goes down. I mean, how she sticks the lipstick into her,
That was cool.
which they did it again at
She has a boob of holding.
oh yeah,
And it's
It
such a
was-
seamless effect too. Like
Mhm.
it really works.
Oh yeah.
And they
then-
kept it. It's such an iconic. It's such an iconic thing that people remember from that movie too. They kept it for the remake, right?
I believe they did.
yeah, they did. That's the reason why I was like, yeah, they did this.
I have the remake, but I haven't seen it in probably a year or two. So
Here too. But ultimately, after that is where we kind of get Stooge and Sal. Sal is kind of a huge character throughout this. He's kind of got a Brooklyn accent, and I like him for some reason. I like the fact that, you know, even though he scared the old man with the frickin' rat in the very beginning here. I mean, he brings an added characterness to the party, and when he goes in on Suzanne, and when he leaves, I love that line. I'll see you later, dollface. That he says. I don't know why, but what do you guys think, Sal?
Sal comes off with like a jerk at the beginning, but it's kind of cool how you notice he's a lot more. There's a lot more to him than is on the surface, which
Right.
I have to admit it's pretty cool.
Okay. Now Sal is witness to kind of how Angela starts to transform. What do we think about that whole scene with the Bauhaus music?
I think that was my favorite scene. Like she starts dancing like more and more feverishly, and it just switches tone from it's like, wow, look at her go, to this is disturbing. Like something is wrong here.
I love how Sal is, instead of being turned on, which you would think they would do with most movies, they actually had him being like, no, this is freaking creepy.
At first he kind of is, and then he's like, oh, I feel like I should get out of here.
And then when Stooge comes in and he's all into the whole sexuality.
He's like, yeah. And he's like, no, man, she's acting weird. Let's get out of here. You can go.
I kind of laughed at the moment when she was like, you know, Stooge, I've never known how sexy you are till now.
And it's like, run, you idiot.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she gives him the kiss of death, and he's like, no. So, but in any case, somehow I like how beasted up Stooge gets as he goes on. I mean, it's not it's not that they made him more deteriorating as he went. You know, they did a great job on the makeup. Did so about this time, we still have Roger, who has found himself outside the house, and he he's with Helen, or he thinks he's with Helen, or is he with Helen? Because to me,
He was.
she disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking strange. What do you guys think about that whole scenario there?
They're just kind of like wandering around outside, and like he's trying to get out, and then she's just gone.
I mean, that would freak me the fuck out. All of a sudden,
He did freak out.
Was with they disappeared, and I can't get back in, and I can't go get out. It's like, but ultimately, he ends up finding himself to bunker a place to bunker down for the night, and we don't see him for a little bit. But
yeah, he wants out of there, and that's just in general. I think that's actually. I mean, he's one of the smarter people in the film. He's like, heck yeah.
Oh, and we find out that Little Miss Perfect and her boyfriend are alone together, and he ends up showing his true colors. He leaves her locked in the room, and goes off on his own. What do we think about that whole scenario? Anyway,
Well, that was a jerk move.
And he ends up running into sweet little Suzanne. What do we think about that? What she did to him? She ended up turning him into a blind date for later.
Yeah.
What would
The guy gets his eyes gouged out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a pretty great effect. Like you believe it. Like you almost feel it a little too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then ultimately, we get down to the Survivor Girl moment where she's running around through the basement of the house, and she realizes
He's running all over the house.
Well,
like,
yeah,
trying to find a way out, and she stumbled across the crematorium, right?
Correct, and then she ends up finding herself out on a balcony, and inside is Stooge looking for her, and she backs the fuck back out onto the balcony, and she comes face to face with Angela Demon. What do we think about the appearances of Angela and her things that she seems to say every time? I mean, she's part of. I like how she floats through the hallways.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
She definitely brings out a
intimidating
creepy factor to this whole scenario, and she's kind of what keeps the whole demonic thing going on, and she's kind of like the leader. So
yeah, she's definitely very intimidating. That's for sure. When it comes to that. So that's actually kind of, to me, it's kind of fun to see the whole deal. I mean, just like in the remake, and I admit I confused the two a little bit, but there is a scene in the remake where they're dancing together, and then of course they're floating in the air, which is,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit different than what happens here. That sounds more like they're trying to do a Casper dance than anything else.
Of course, it all turns out badly as time goes.
Oh yeah, and it just so happens that she ends up falling somewhat off the balcony, hanging there, if only by the tips of her fingers. And she realizes that Roger's below, and he's trying to get her to go over a couple more inches on the ledge. And
He's trying to get her to
that's
scoot
when-
over so he can catch her. And that's when Angela
Oh,
appears
yeah.
and starts messing with her. And the other guy shows
Yep.
up and tries to help too. And you don't see what happened. You don't see it happen, but you see him dead. You see him very dead. Like shortly after that.
Well, yeah. What happens is she falls into Roger, and you, as they're on the ground, you just see his fucking legs just show up. Like he has jumped straight from the balcony and straight in front of them. They're like, ah! So they end up running away from that and run into the other building, and then worse comes to worse. You see them going down a couple of hallways. You see Angela floating again, and shortly after that, they end up outside again, and they realize that there's this thin little barbed wire on the wall. What do you think about this next scenario here?
Oh, that part was painful. It was painful to watch. About having to climb up having barbed wires as to climb up a wall. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get, and then Roger gets himself up over, and he's like, "Come, take my hand," and she's climbing up, and you see her struggling, and of course Stooge has got hold of her legs, and then you start to see the other guys, and this is where they kind of are in between demons and zombies at this moment, because they stagger outside of the house, the rest of them, and they come towards, and then she finally gets up over the wall, and they both get over the other side, and that's when they realize that the sun is apparently doing something to them. They see this very cool hologram, looking like demon, that comes out of this whole fog of smoke.
Oh yeah.
And it basically chomps its like jaws at them or something like that, and then it like,
yeah, when the sun comes up, like the bodies they're possessing melt, and you see the demons come out, and it's like, ugh. And it's kind of not the best effect. It works, but it's a little cheap. It looks kind of like the skeletons at Home Depot.
well, and the hologram, it kind of like dissipates like a mirage, like a mirage that you would see like on the desert or whatnot. So
yeah,
I'm not sure if that entirely works for that thing, but I guess it worked for the time period. So now that we've kind of gone through the plot here, is there anything else that anyone wants to add to the whole mix?
Well, the effects in this movie are kind of the standout. Like everything plays really well. Like especially the lipstick and the boob scene. Yeah. Like that is like seamless how it like slips in there. Like you don't like see anything. It's they say special effects are magic tricks, and that was a hell of a magic trick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a sleight of hand a trick that they must have done with the camera somehow. But it seemed effortless. I thought the special effects were pretty rad. I mean, for this time period, I mean, you got the metamorphosis of these demons as they take over the humans that they they went into. I mean, you've got the communication through the mirrors, as we said. That's kind of a cool aspect, and I just kind of like how it all played out.
Yeah, I agree. I like definitely. I think the special effects are great for for a low for a low budget 80s movie. They look very good. They look pretty good for the time for the time and for the limited budget. And especially actually one that always stands out to me is the one at the end when the old man has his apple pie and he doesn't realize, and it was apples that he was planning on giving out to trick-or-treaters that had razor blades, playing up on an old urban legend, and his wife ends up taking the apples, these razor-filled apples, and making an apple pie out of them. He eats the pie by accident, and his throat just tears open. Spills blood all over spills blood
Everywhere.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite effects.
And she, of course, just goes down and kisses him and says, "Happy Halloween." Like,
that's the thing, though. It's kind of weird. Like, man, that razor is so large. I was surprised that he couldn't figure out. There's a razor there. He must have been taking big bites at apple pie. I mean,
well, yeah, obviously, but it worked for the moment, and I think that it was a kind of like a what the fuck moment.
Pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy ending to the movie. You definitely don't see it coming.
No, definitely not.
I remember I was like, why are they focusing on this old couple? Oh, yeah, okay.
Did we want to talk about favorite scenes before we go into the music?
Sure.
All right. Horace, what was your favorite scene from the film?
Okay, for me, I would say it's toss up between the apple pie, and probably Linnea quickly smearing her lipstick all over herself, because for such a cheesy fun film, it's such a disturbing moment.
What about you, Brandon?
It really is hard to figure out which one is the best in this one. I would think probably at the beginning where you've got the seance. It's always is pretty cool.
Okay. What about you, Dustin?
Mine is definitely Angela's dance, like when she starts transforming. Like, just thinking about like choreographing that and then performing that, and then having it like hit the tone that it does too.
Okay. What about you, Jake? If there was a favorite scene, what would you take from this film?
I kind of liked that scene with Suzanne. Just the craziness of her look and what have you. I kind of like that. And again, just that fudge log scene just cracked me up.
That was probably the grossest thing in the movie.
It was gross. I think my two favorite scenes would be the one that Dustin likes. Maybe because I think that Angela looks so much like Fairuza Balk in
Fairuza Balk from The Craft.
Yeah,
she really does.
The fact that she when she said in the very end before Roger and Judy were trying to get out of the house, she was like, "What, do you have a problem with my blind date?" you know, and when she sees her
The guy with his eyes gouged out.
eyes out just for some reason, I chuckled there. And I think that's it as far as scenes go. Oh, for me. Oh, and I guess I kind of do like that holographic demon thing. For some reason, I did enjoy seeing.
I mean, it doesn't look bad. Like,
No,
it looks cool.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind if, like, maybe they made a mecha version of it or something like that down the road, something like that. But in any case, I know we kind of glanced over the music a little bit, but what did we think about the soundtrack?
Oh, that opening theme is like such a great piece of music.
That is evidently by someone related to the director. I think.
Director's brother, Kevin Michael Tenney.
Yeah. Let's see.
The song from the end credits, "The Beast Inside." I actually do have that in regular rotation on my iTunes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. In fact, most of the music is actually done by Dennis Michael Tenney. So, the other two songs by Tenney was "Computer Date" and "Victims of the Press," which evidently those. I think Stigmata Martyr was played by Bauhaus. That was the only outside music, but it was a pretty decent. To me, the Bauhaus song kind of sounded similar in sound to another film that I like, The Lost Boys. With the music that goes on there. So, other than that, I think that's pretty much it for this film. Unless anyone else has anything else to add.
I think I'm good.
This is one of the better cult classics out there. So if you have a chance to see it, if you haven't seen it before, give it a try.
It's a late night favorite.
Oh yeah. I'll enjoy watching this again next year or whatnot. Giving it a marathon or what. So in
definitely a change.
Shout Factory, when they did the Steelbook for Night of the Demons, if you pre-ordered from Shout Factory, you could get like the special edition that came with an Angela figure from NECA.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only way to get an Angela figure. It's long sold out, and I think Angela is like $200 on eBay or something.
Ooh.
Yeah, I already had Night of the Demons, so I didn't go in for that. I sort of wish I did because it's a pretty cool figure.
Alrighty. I think we'll do our outros after the next film. And ladies and gentlemen, we will probably be going on about From Dusk Till Dawn on Inside Movies Galore. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen, and like, share, subscribe, and everyone say good night for now.
Good night
for now.
For now.
Subscribe to the Crypt of Horrors.
Good night.